All right, so hello, everyone, and welcome to another expert session number 86, almost 100 expert sessions now. We're going to speak about the science behind shopper decisions, and our guest today is Vesna Fuiorea.
Yeah.
So before before we start, I just want to thanks our sponsors. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge the partners who make our global work possible. So first off, VTEX for enabling enterprise commerce experiences across markets. eDesk for supporting customer operations with intelligence and scale. And AirMeet for enabling our global virtual and hybrid experiences. Your support allows Evolve to bring world-class operators like Vesna into the room. So today we cut through one of the most misunderstood areas of commerce. We spend months talking about AI, marketplaces, and digital transformation. Yet most brands still win or lose at the physical shelf. The in-store environment remains one of the most competitive arenas in all of retail. Attention is fragmented. Shoppers switch fast, and every square meter carries weight. Vesna brings 25 years of experience in trade and insights, and what she created here is not another academic deck. It is a practical system grounded in real shopper behavior, real store constraints, and real commercial pressures. She bridges something most leaders struggle to connect: behavioral science, market practice, and fresh shopper data. So why Vesna matters? She's going to be sharing her theoretical framework, grounded in Kahneman, Byron Sharp, and some other gentlemen here that are hard to pronounce, but market practices from multinational and local FMCG players across Europe. And her latest shopper insights accrue data from 1,000 shopper study from April 2025. Vesna, welcome. We
Thank you.
always start these expert sessions with a provocation. And the controversial question for you is, Vesna, your research shows the industry keeps operating on outdated assumptions about how shoppers move, decide, and switch inside the store. Why does this disconnect persist when the in-store environment has changed so dramatically?
Uh, Thank you, first of all, for having me here today. It's really a very high pleasure to be with you. Coming back to your question, I think one of the biggest disconnect is actually the fact that people or brand owners and retailers are somehow, forgetting that physical stores are still very important. In some cases, outmostly important for the sales of their brands when we talk about FMCG particularly. We know that e-commerce is booming in some categories or in others is still having a steady growth throughout the years. But what happens, and this is not only Eastern Europe where I'm coming from, but across Western Europe for sure and the US, people still enjoy going to the stores. People still enjoy going to the supermarket, or if they don't enjoy, they are still going there. Brand owners and retailers sometimes forget about this thing and focusing on AI and e-com and so on and so forth. They forget that most of their sales are still in the stores, and they forget that they should keep this base very solid before moving on and developing obviously other alternative retail channels.
I appreciate that answer, and I could not agree more. I dislike the experience of buying clothes, but I cannot buy them online. So I could not agree more with you. Whenever I go to like I can't buy clothes online to begin with, and I don't like the experience. But when I need clothes, I mean, I really appreciate when when the displays they are well organized,
Mhm.
and I think there's a lot of science in there, right? From this scent that they use and music, and you're going to talk
Yes.
all about the science behind how we buy. So I have another question, and then I'd like to Hendrik to jump in. Also, he brings a lot of experience. He's an analyst, by the way. I think we didn't touch that. Covers marketplaces, has an amazing newsletter. But the question I had for you is, Are companies wasting million on digital merchandising while losing the real battle at at the shelf?
They are not losing money, I think. I hope for them. I am much more focused on the retail, the physical retail, than the online. But for sure, they would spend it. I hope for their P&L that they are spending wisely. Um, there are categories that are more prone to the offline uh, commerce, let's say, and they continue to be in this way. And a very interesting observation I made when it comes to supermarket type of goods is that the better the local cuisine and the better the involvement of the or the higher the involvement of the people in having fresh food and cooking at home or having nice meals in the restaurant, the less is the online shopping for the food categories in developing in those countries. So if you go to Italy, Spain, Greece, people are still, relying on open markets or going into the supermarkets to buy the fresh vegetables and everything. If you go, and now I'm talking about Europe mostly. If you go up north, where probably the cuisine is not so delightful, let's call it this way. To be trying to be, also polite to the audience. Now I'm not sure where everybody is coming from. Then people tend to buy more of the packed, tasteless food. You know, I have a son that studied for 3 years in the Netherlands, and he was fed up with, this very packed, tasteless type of food there and a bit of bollen. Yeah, so I sense that
Very cool.
my family.
Hendrik, you jump in, but I'm just gonna tell where actually right now where we have people coming from. In this room, we have I'm coming from Denmark, Gustavo Berlin. Well, Christy Bidlake, the US. We have Hendrik, who's in South Africa. Luke Hilton, Australian, based in the UK. Lais, she lives with me, my wife, of course,
I
in
know her.
Denmark.
I met her in Italy.
Yeah. Mauricio Salvador, who is in Barcelona, and Davor, who's in Croatia, right, Davor? I would
Ah,
actually ask you to comment. How do you buy your goods? If you mentioned in what do you call packaged food
yeah,
uh,
yeah. It's
or
I
fresh
myself
foods,
no.
right?
I'm going to the supermarket usually to buy the fresh things. I'm relying on online only
Hmm.
for let's say the canned stuff or the heavy stuff like I don't know water and beer and detergents and stuff like that. But probably also given the fact that I am working a lot with my customers, my clients in my consultancy job, I go to the supermarket also as a, to visit them to see what's going on. So it's not only the typical um, visit. Every time I'm going to do a shopping, I'm also working something, checking something, doing something, to understand what's going on in the store.
Hmm.
When it comes to this FMCG. I personally prefer also for the clothes. So for the fashion, I still prefer to buy in store. Only for the goods that or the brands that I really know my size,
Yeah, sizing
I
is a
would go,
terrible
or
issue.
they are not available in my country, then I would
Hmm.
buy online. But I'm a bit maybe old fashioned, but for electronics and stuff like that or books, I
Hmm.
always buy them online. I don't mind in this case. So
Perfect,
I'm a
perfect.
combination of everything.
We'll cover your study, but Hendrik, you always have great, challenging questions as well. Go ahead.
Vesna, firstly, your assumption or your observation about good food leading to people not buying food online, man, I wish that was made public, like somebody screaming it from the top of roofs, because that's a really good observation. My question to you today is this. I'll start off by saying this. In the current economic climate we have, you have consumers that are more focused on value and on deals. How should brands and retailers think about that? What is your data and theory? What does it say about that change from being people that want to spend lots of money to now becoming more value conscientious? Help me understand.
Yes, it also depends a lot by, so there are 2 or 3 variables here that are very, very important to take into consideration. First of all is the development of the market and the
Mm-hmm,
retail in that market,
mm-hmm,
and the development of the private label brands as
mm-hmm,
well. And then it's obviously all this economic downturn or whatever that is
mm-hmm,
more predominant in some markets versus the others.
mm-hmm,
Um, just as a curiosity, let's say, do you know that one of the largest percentage of private label brands, so retail brands,
mm-hmm,
in some categories up to 80%,
mm-hmm,
is
mm-hmm.
happening in Switzerland, which is
Wow,
one of the richest country in Europe.
wow.
Yeah, you would not expect that.
No.
In Romania, which is, one of the latest coming to EU in the last 15 years or so, 12 years, it's only 20%.
Wow.
And it's not growing. So, I mean, they, in order for them to build these private label brands, they had to create some retailer brands, really retailer brands. So it's not written on it delays.
Mm-hmm.
It's a locally invented brand that the Delays has in Romania,
Yeah,
just for you, and it's called Romanian Tastes as
yeah,
a brand, but now, and probably consumers don't even know that this is the private brand of Delays
yeah.
in Romania. Yeah. So even Lidl is playing with some brands now. So they, in dairy, they have Pilos, which is, and consumers are not reacting to them like being the retail brand. Retailer, they say it's a brand that just exists or is distributed in Lidl. So this is how they understand this. Yeah. So it's a matter of how this happens. Your question was how to for retailers and for brands
Brands.
to deal with this
Yes.
challenging on the value. This existed and probably was just accumulating on time. And
Yeah,
what we see is the pressure on promos,
yeah,
which are not necessarily always paying off. Yeah,
yeah,
discounts are not always, and in some cases,
yeah,
are never paying off.
yeah.
And one way of getting out of this is to step back and to understand first where is the category, what type of development that category has.
Mm-hmm,
Is still an emerging category, or is it a mature category? It
mm-hmm,
still has room to grow or not? And
mm-hmm,
then what is the brand position in that category? Again, is it a brand that grows still, has a low trial rate still, and it has to grow through acquiring new customers? Or
mm-hmm,
is it a mature brand that has, to develop through playing with the frequency and the buy rate? Because in the end, any brand can grow only in 3 ways: either getting more people, either getting the people they have to eat more or more frequently. That's the only 3 ways that you can have, right?
mm-hmm,
So if you are a brand that still tries to get more people, do you think that getting a discount will make them buy you if they never tried you? Would be the price the relevant trigger to play with? Probably
mm-hmm,
not. And in my experience, it's not really paying off. So what this discount does is just bleeding your PNL.
mm-hmm,
So jumping into discounts, and this probably is very relevant for e-commerce as well.
mm-hmm,
Jumping into a discount, is it really the easiest way to do? Yes, for sure. But is it strategically the one that is correct?
mm-hmm,
You have to really analyze it. And in many cases, I've just seen, and this was really very Romanian driven now because I just came back from a conference where Nielsen was, the retail audit
mm-hmm,
company was presenting some figures. But they were showing that in 2024, more than 50% of the sales done through promo were
Mhm.
subsidized. What does it mean? Being subsidized, meaning that they would have happened either way.
Yeah.
So people would have bought it if they were or not on promo.
Wow.
So they were sold on promo for nothing. It was just a loss in the profitability. And this is happening across. It's not Romania specific.
Mhm.
This type
Mhm.
of outcome. Probably the percentage is varying.
You mentioned something very interesting. So you mentioned that in some countries, for example, Switzerland, private labels are growing, if I understood
They
you
are.
correctly.
It's not growing. They are a big chunk of the market in some categories. It's really like
Perfect.
dominating the category.
And then the question is to cover your study as well, and to cover what
Mm-hmm.
the material you prepared. But this is a conversation always, okay? Which
Sure.
is very interesting. It's very grounded what you're sharing, like practical insights. So your study shows modern shoppers are more informed, less loyal, and switch faster.
Yes.
So, what then companies misunderstand about the customer, in your opinion? Because I think you're bringing a very interesting point. Like you're talking about, should you start a brand giving discounts, or how should you position your brand right at the shelf? So, what's your take on that, based on what you do?
Yeah, so retail was always an arena of fights. Yeah, so since probably the first shop came into this world, and there were more than two products in one category, then the fight started on who is selling more, right? And then there were more
Mhm.
retailers and so on. What happens now is that the shoppers in Europe, particularly, are much more informed because there are all these retail apps. They are getting, pushes from everywhere. They get information from everywhere. They don't have even to check on, like 20 years ago when they were getting the leaflet, the physical leaflet, and going through it and seeing where the promo is. Now it's like one click away. And in
Mhm.
this way, it's much more easy it's easier for them to decide what happens and where to go to buy, and the retailers are closer, and convenience also plays a very big role. It's not that the retailers are not seeing this or the brand owners are not seeing it, but being pressured to deliver the next quarter of volumes, like
Mhm.
their sales, sometimes they forget what are there for. What is the purpose of that brand, and what is the brand growth strategy. And in many cases, I think this is the largest disconnect, or the biggest disconnect I see. And I was giving the example, if you are a brand that is just starting, why would you
Mhm.
give discounts? Because they will
Mhm.
not really help you with. It's the same when you are starting or trying to get, people buy more of your product, and you have a
Mhm.
promotion. If you, I don't know, buy two, get one free or something. But if this is not connected with a consumption habit, if that product can be um, consumed more in a given period of time, this promotion will just delay. This type of
Yeah.
promotion will just delay, the next purchase cycle. There are categories that are, have this factor of if you are buying more, or if you are having it available in the house in larger quantities, you would eat more of that. Usually the snacks are in this category. But if you are buying coffee on this type of quantity promotion, buy two get one free, or beer is another example that you'd drink more if you have more. But coffee is not. Coffee, you would buy three instead of one. So then for the next whatever, you multiply the quantity with the usual frequency of consumption. Coffee has a large period to store. It's not close to expiry in 2 years
Mhm.
or something. And then you will just prolong or you will just move a bit longer, or you'll move your problem on stocking. It's not analyzing and evaluating what are the best promotional strategies for your brand, and link the promotion strategy to your brand growth. strategy is critical and there they are the most in my experience with my clients, this is where I can contribute the most because they have the, the largest disconnect in that area.
Wow.
Hendrik.
So what has just come out is something that I think most brands should have on their minds. Because I think Vesna made the argument that you have to understand consumption patterns of your consumer. You have to.
Yeah. Yes.
But you also cannot train your consumer to expect discounts. Because if they know that there's going to be a discount in 8 weeks' time or whatever time frame, they're not going to buy. So the question I had for Vesna is this. We now know that there's a disconnect. What is the one thing that you have learned with your study that basically made you think, but this makes no sense? Why is this the case?
You know, this material that I was putting together is actually a combination of theory and best practices and this fresh data, very
Yeah.
specific to the Romanian market.
Yeah.
In the theory and the best practices are still valuable for across the globe, I would say, maybe with very few exceptions in some markets that
Correct.
are very, very atypical. So commenting on what this study has brought in, for me that I and the new things, it's something in the area of fine tuning. It's incredible now, and I know that this is already clicheistic when we start talking about cohorts, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
consumer cohorts. It's incredible to see how different the Gen Zs are buying versus the millennials or the Gen X.
Yep.
And not even that, because this you would expect, yeah, the younger,
Yep.
they will be more prone to whatever else. But it's interesting, and this is what this study brought in because we had the time to delve more into the
Yep.
data. So far, we were looking at cohorts and we were stopping there. But now looking and understanding the differences between female and male,
Mm-hmm.
it's bringing a larger gap than before,
Oh, wow.
which is really unexpected in my for particularly for some categories, yeah, because there would be some categories that would be more gender related, let's say. So yeah, you would
Yep.
expect that beer would be more appreciated by men, and yeah, probably younger male will be more interested. Apparently younger male don't drink beer anymore, and the younger generation, no, really, it's, you know,
Yep.
believe me, at least in Romania, but I know that also across Europe particularly, alcohol consumption is going down significantly, and this is driven particularly by the Gen Z. They are not drinking alcohol, and beer, it's definitely off their tables. But then you would not expect to have these big gaps or big differences between female and male when it comes to cheese or to cold cuts
Mm-hmm.
or to fresh. Yeah, so they are really looking on something else, and this has immediate impact on the in-store execution of your promotions and secondary
Mm-hmm.
placements, for example, because all in a sudden, if you know that your category is perceived differently by females and males,
Yep.
and you have a target in your mind,
Yep.
then you will have more ability to talk to that target in a more specific way. And customization, as we know, it's
Yep.
a keyword also when it comes to online. And somehow this is expected more and more by customers also when they come in offline. They expect to get something that it's specifically for them. They are not happy to have only a general promotion anymore.
Wow.
Hmm. Um, the question is, what would you advise if a CEO asked you to start a diagnosis in store to check if they're underperforming, performing? What's your best advice? Where would you start? What's the first thing to assess?
I always start like this. I'm doing an audit, an in-store audit, and then I'm trying to mirror it to the general um, business growth strategy they are having, and to see, where the discrepancies are. So going into the store, I'm always, and not being a stalker, but I'm always trying to follow some customers in a
Mm-hmm.
discreet way. Yeah, so I'm not going and being like a, Sherlock Holmes after them. But then you see how they really act in the shelf,
Mm-hmm.
or in front of the shelf. And there it's, one of the areas where a lot of the brand people are spending the least of their time,
Yeah.
exactly in front of the place where their products are sold. The majority of the marketing and trade marketing team I was working with, they are just going and looking at the shelves, and if the product is in the shelf, then they are happy, and they, turn around and they leave. They very seldomly spend about 15 minutes to look
Mm.
at the people that come to the shelf and how these people are reacting in front of the shelf. Because obviously, and here I'm never, getting a popularity prize from the marketing team. Very few people go to the store imagining only one brand, all the marketing. I was a marketeer as well. And I was, when I was young and very passionate about the brand, I was thinking that my consumers are waking up in the morning thinking about only my brand, and they will go to the store and they will see only this. They are not. People have,
Mm-hmm.
a shopping list. They are on a shopping mission. They want usually to get rid of the store pretty fast. It's not as experiential like in fashion, when you'll probably go into a store even if you don't have anything in mind, just to check. This is, at least the girls are doing this a lot, yeah. Um, but in the supermarket, you go and look for the product, and so on. And this is, the first thing that I would do, coming back to your question, Carlos. Try to see if what they do and say they do in store, it's really mirroring their brand strategy. And then spending some time in the category aisle to check on how shoppers are really approaching the shelf, and what do they
Mm-hmm.
put what are they looking at, how do they approach the shelf. Is it really looking like a planned purchase, so they are just going directly, they know what to buy, they just pick it up, put it in the trolley, and they leave, or they are just wandering some seconds, looking around, trying to find their product or not.
Um, I have a question which is maybe diverging a little bit from this topic, but whenever I go to, let's say, the UK, maybe Romania, I see that Denmark is so inwards. It's like I always say that they're like horses sometimes, and that translates into the supermarket as well.
Yeah.
You don't see a variety of brands.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to see the same stuff always. You
Mm-hmm.
know, few brands, and I think I would maybe say that this is very valid for the Scandinavian markets, whereby if you go to the US, or um, if you go to, I don't know, the UK, maybe you have this major conglomerates, but and they own multiple brands, but you see a variety there. And here in Denmark, I'm like, it's kind of like always the same, you know. So you have, I don't know your experience there, but I don't feel there is this availability of options. You know, there's a lot of options, but I'm talking about brands, if you know what I mean, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious about your take on, if you have any insights on that, and if some countries they have um, more options than others, and yeah, and why is that?
Yes, yes. It's, it's very difficult to have a rule or like an insight across all the very
Mhm.
different markets in Europe. Um, there will always be some categories that are better represented
Mm-hmm.
in one market than in another.
Mhm.
And this is coming back somehow to the food culture in a
Mhm.
way. And in the historical development of that category, somehow, if there were a couple of local players to start with that were kind of driving the category.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And it's interesting to see that sometimes markets that are very close to each other from a lot of
Mhm.
other, cultural links or something, they could be very different in the development of subcategories. And now, just
Yep.
to give you some examples, yeah. So, and I'll come back to markets that are closer to Romania. Maybe it's not so how to say relevant for the people that are in the call coming from South America, but. For the sake of the example, please bear with me. So, just to give you, in chocolate, you would think, and in many cases, you would be very right to think that many of the Central European markets, Central and Eastern European markets, would have very similar um,
Mm-hmm.
consumer behavior when it comes to the segments of chocolates that exist. Yeah? So tablets could be probably the largest segment. Then count lines could be second or not. And pralines would be something more niche and would be, not used for everyday consumption, would be much more for gifting occasions and so on.
Mhm.
However, Hungary, for example, has one of the largest markets for count lines, and it's driven mainly, or it was historically driven by a local brand. It's called Sport, a
Mhm.
green little thing with a very peculiar taste. If you don't like it, it's a combination of rum and something. It's a very you like it or it's very polarizing. Let's put it this way: you like
Mhm.
it or you don't. Um, and in many markets, you would have, on the main shelf, you'll not even have count lines as a big shelf. You'll have
Yep.
count lines at the checkouts, and but in Hungary, the shelf of count lines would be much larger than the one of tablets.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it's really, and this was because in the history, was locally
Mhm.
produced for, I don't know, 80 years or so, and somehow the taste of that consumer base was somehow shaped by this. In other markets where still in chocolate, um, you would say that milk chocolate is the standard, yeah, the mainstream taste for chocolate. And this was definitely driven by markets like Germany and Austria and France, with
Yep.
Milka in Germany and in Austria, and France with Côte d'Or and other brands in that, and Nestlé, um, however, if you'd go to former Soviet Union markets, so in Russia or
Mhm.
Ukraine and so on, the main taste is dark chocolate.
Yeah. Okay.
And but again, because this is how the market was shaping up.
Mhm.
And you can
Very
pick up
interesting. Yeah.
every type of category, and for
Mhm.
sure, also in Denmark might be that there are some categories that are more developed than others, and would be a surprise
Sure.
for
Yeah.
others to see that so many options in this tiny little. I mean, in this
Mhm. Yeah.
category that in my country is very tiny little, and nobody knows about it.
That is very true. We'll continue with the study, but just on that note, and maybe Henrik, I would love to know what is popular in South Africa. But here, dairy is amazing. Like, if you take like
Mm-hmm.
skier, you know what
Yes,
skier
here I
is,
know
Henrik?
curious. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. In Brazil, you won't necessarily. It's not easy to find. It's. I would say it's almost rare. Like in Denmark, you find them in droves. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
amazing. And when you go to cheese,
Yeah.
and so dairy, cheese,
Yeah.
that's great. But my point was more like, so there are the categories, but there's always the usual suspects here. So I don't find at least in the chains that I typically go to. So you have Futex or Netto, that they have this amazing variety. Maybe if you go to Little, you'll find different stuff,
Yeah.
typically cheaper as well. That's how
Yeah.
I
You would be
perceive
surprised it's not
Little,
as
right?
cheap as they presume, or you presume it is. Actually, we
All
can have a
right.
conversation about that as well.
It's super interesting, super interesting. So let's talk about continue on your study. So page 5, you your toolkit highlights the importance of path to purchase and shelf layout. So what are the
Mhm.
most damaging visibility mistakes that brands make inside the main aisle?
They are not securing the relevant space shelf to secure visibility in main shelf. And this could also be impacted by the standout of the packaging. You know, there is a joke in the marketing world that every new brand manager feels like he has to do something with the brand when he gets to work on it. And one of the first things that he does is to change the logo or the packaging. It's not happening as often
Arts and
nowadays,
crafts, not creating demand.
but it's a lot. You know, a lot of times it's happening, and it's not for the best interest of that brand or that category to have this happening. Visibility at shelf is critical because there, you know, irrespective of how much you have communicated on how much you have engaged with your consumers in online and offline communities, how much you have spent in, you know, in a lot of other type of activities, if he cannot find you in the shelf, he will buy something else
Yeah.
in most of the cases.
Yep.
Because, you know, the differentiation between brands, we like it or not, is becoming smaller and smaller.
Yep.
And then in this way, there will be very few people that will not buy a second option they have on their, you know, mental list of brands they use, and just go to another store to find that specific brands. And
Yep.
I think every of you could now think and make a list of which are the brands that I really only buy those and not buy something else instead, you
Yep.
know. Or if your I don't know, your partner sends you to the store and tells you, bring me a cream cheese because I have to do something with the sauce with the salmon, and you don't find the regular brand, you'll go home without it. You'll buy the next one, I think, in most of the cases. Yeah. Um, and that's where I think it's important in main shelf to secure the visibility of your brand and to make sure that people find it easily. People meaning the shoppers.
Uh, we could cover the secondary placement, promotions, and commercial addiction. Let's see, cross market questions. If but let's also invite the audience if they have
Mm-hmm.
question. Otherwise,
Sure.
Hendrik and I are. I'm sure we have lots of questions here to continue. But hey everyone, you're very welcome to join us. Now we just hit 38 minutes. So please, by all means, this is a really insightful, interesting conversation. Go on, Vinny. Come on, show us your best Irish spirit.
This should be interesting. This should be interesting.
Jesus. Am I live?
You are just not, your camera's not on, dude. There you go.
Yeah, no, it's there's something always strikes me about shopper insights. We don't have this in e-commerce. And I feel
You
we're
have, I mean, I am aware and familiar with a lot of shopper insights in e-commerce as well.
outside of big CPG companies, I don't think we are. I think we require that an owner operator has got to be someone who validates their gut feel by some very basic analytics. But it seems to me, Hendrik, I don't know if you agree or anyone else, but it just doesn't exist in other teams. Yet it's such a fascinating part because you talk about brand marketing in a way that I think brand owners need to think about, because we always just think through a performance lens. The piece around cohorts was particularly interesting because right now I'm just going through a piece of work with a client that I've been working with for the last number of weeks, and the argument that's going backwards and forwards that I walked into the middle of was in their ability to carve out new audiences moving through geographies. Their agency was using speculative information from things like central statistics offices in other countries to say this is the potential of your total addressable market. Whereas they have 3 years worth of customer data with cohort information that they weren't aware that it existed, but they have this really good cohort information available to them where they could try to match those cohorts in other geographies. And that's the argument that's going on now. And I don't understand why there's an argument at all. Well, sorry, I do, but I really don't, because maybe the problem, Vesna, is that we think we'd love things to be bigger than they actually are. And the idea of getting into cohort analysis really narrows the window we have to operate in and be more accurate. It's not really a question, I guess. It's more of a statement, just where I feel e-commerce is at right now.
I think it depends also by segment or by categories or by platform, because I know that, there is a lot of insights work going across the major e-com platforms that are, available. And I have clients that are sometimes asking me to double check their understanding on the information that they get. In a way, when it comes to e-commerce, and I'm not really working so much in that area, honestly, in analyzing, all the data coming from performance KPIs in e-com. But I think all those and evaluations, let's call them, are so much focused on the people that click only on something, and they come back, all the analysis saying, yeah, we haven't, we lose them at the cash or the shopping cart, or we are losing them there. So we have to somehow help, to improve this area of our funnel. But somehow being so much into the e-com stuff, the e-com experts forget that the people that are going to buy on e-commerce, they would be more familiar in any type of cohort. They would still try to apply their shopping behavior that they are exhibiting also in the offline world. So if you are trying, to understand your customer, don't think that these are schizophrenic people that are acting somehow in offline in a way, and when they are in e-com, they are completely different people, So try to apply the same type of criterias, the same type of segmentations of the category, the same type of entry points to the category, then they will happen in the offline world. Because why would I use a different type of segmentation in my head if I'm buying it online versus the offline? Yeah, why would I look for other type of triggers and motivators if I'm in online versus the offline? And here, when in my talks with my customers, when they are coming, but in online we have to do it this way or this way or this way. I always ask them, or in the product presentation, they come with this very strange type of presentations of the product. And they're like, who is reading this? Or who do you think is reading this? Why would they think like that? Why would they think about this type of segment in this way? It's without being, I don't want it, somehow in e-commerce everything becomes much more technical, and normal people are not technical.
We overcomplicate it because we feel there's so many other factors that come in. I think it should start with the customer and everything else falls around it. But there's an interesting observation I've made that the most senior e-com roles all around the world now are being adopted by people who come from CPG.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if you look at places like Whoop and all these other growing international brands, they're picking people from CPG because one, they've got the commercial acumen, and I think also they're able to sit on both sides of the coin as you've described it, Vesna,
Yeah.
that they have this offline and online line of sight. They
Yeah.
understand the motivations, they understand the behaviors, and then they know how to commercialize all of that. And they say to the rest of the team, "You guys figure out the rest, but this is the path we have to take." And
Yeah.
it's an interesting thing, and it's an anecdotal piece of evidence. But I think if you look at those roles that are being announced all around the world, they are the sorts of people that are now being e-com leaders, and the next wave of them, I would say, right, particularly in Europe, and as much in North America.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I suppose my point is, it's an incredible skill to have if you want to be a really senior e-com leader. And I wonder about the title. The language of e-commerce is so poor. I wonder if we started adopting retail language rather than technology language, would we start getting better outcomes as well?
And that's a great point because whenever I talk to Vesna about our network, she mentioned a couple of times that she feels it's too much e-commerce orientated. And I always say this is commerce, and commerce, there's CPG, and and in all honesty, I hate hate is a strong word, but I dislike all the technical lingo that there is in e-commerce because it's made for, it's like The Big Short. If you watched it, it's like finance people, they're just speaking that, but in the end it's blah 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 blah, and it,
When
it
you put
means
your
really
CD
nothing
ones,
sometimes. Yeah, OMS, WMS, speak normal language, man, and customer behavior and so on. So just to your point, I think it could be more simple as well, right? And
Yes,
because in the
but
end it is about behavior, it is about how we consume, it is about uh, that's it. We buy stuff and
We
I think we've
consume it,
managed
we
to
eat it,
silence
or
Hendrik.
we
Have we?
wear it. Yeah.
so to this conversation, I will add two things. One, I think Vesna's point about the consumer and the need for retail and the data, I just think that what I've heard in today's conversation, it's very clear that these still brands that they don't understand the relationship between retail and e-commerce. That for me is pretty clear. Two, I think so. To answer the question, so I sit in a country which is a developing market. I believe we have one of the greatest retail ecosystems in the world. And when Vesna was talking about data, I was thinking about last week where I was in a store and I was seeing somebody pack an aisle. And after he was finished packing the aisle, he took a photograph of where he put the items in the aisle. And I asked him, "Where's that going?" And he said to me, "No, I need to send this to the brand manager because they
Yeah.
want to know exactly where this product is being shown to the consumer." So to this conversation, I will ask Vesna, which I think is a question we need to get to, is, Vesna, the one thing that I've seen with brands that I work with is that in e-com, there's a lot of data available because of that's just how the sector is. Yet in retail, in store, there's less data available because of the fact that the consumer needs to go to the aisle, needs to see the product, and need to make a decision. How do you tell your clients to work to find data or partner with? How do you work with that lack of good data? And I'm using air quotes here, good data, to help brands inside retail locations maximize the opportunity that retail is.
The data is available also in the offline world. It's we are
Mm-hmm.
sitting on piles of information and data. The problem is not on getting the data, is in the analyzing the data and making good use of that. Most of the retail world nowadays, in Europe at least, is in this organized trade. Was used to be, now it's everything, it's organized, so everything is scanned. You can have access to the data from various providers of information, like
Yep.
Nielsen or dunnhumby or Kantar or whatever. You have information coming from the household panels, YouGov and Kantar again, and so on. Yeah, you understand what goes in a shopping basket. even more nowadays with the very big development, at least in some markets, of the retailer apps. So going beyond the royalty card data that used to be something, nowadays is not only a card, it's an app. And so they are collecting a lot of information, and they are analyzing it, and they got, with the help of AI and so on, to customize your promotion. So my promotions would be different to your promotions that you get in your app for whatever type of retailers. So it's not that the information is not there. It's the ability of the brand owner or of the retail or of the retailer to understand which are really the critical ones that will help them move forward. And here, it's not a matter of finding the data, but is on the building the strategy rather than everything, because you can do everything, or you could do, you could pick anything from the list of things that you do, but definitely you cannot do everything for your brand. You have to make some choices, and the choices would be made on the strategic approach that you as a brand owner or as a retailer want to do. And this would mean that you lose also some consumers, or you cannot please everybody, and it's not meant to please everybody. You have to find those strategic, valuable consumers that will make you move the needle, and then the rest would follow. And these are some tough choices. And usually the big companies are doing it much better than the smaller ones. And the smaller players are, somehow I feel that they are somehow frozen in this fear that if they don't go everywhere, they will lose these such big opportunities. And it's not, actually. It's saving time and resources. And, if in the e-commerce, it's not so expensive to list another 200 SKUs in a platform. So to say, okay, we will try. We just take some photos and we put them up. We are uploading them up, and let's see if they sell or not. It's not. But if you think about creating the actual goods and distributing them in the cells, it involves a lot of costs. The resources involved in that are much larger. And then the decision have to be really well rooted in some strong insights that are taken into consideration.
Wow, thank you. That was super helpful.
Welcome.
Yeah,
Gustavo?
I jumped in because Hendrik's question reminded me when I was at the university 20 years ago, basically. But we had a study that was, as I remember, it was with Walmart. Nowadays, everyone must do that. It was they had a GPS on their shopping carts that they could understand client behavior inside the market, and then other supermarkets chains did that, and they could understand like different regions of the world. People would enter the supermarket and go to the right or go to the left, and they could place the product on the but it's more than 20 years ago. So what I believe is, and probably echoing here what Vesna just said, is that retail is very more is much more old, let's say, than e-commerce. So the data is there. There's a lot of studies and science around that. I think it's more like how people are using that actually for the better use of that.
Yeah, so the studies that you are mentioning with GPS on the cards, they were done probably by the most of the retailers in this world already. So they became best practices. Yeah, so we know by now that placing your categories that are more of an impulse buying or unplanned buying in the first third of the store would help more those categories to be bought, because people are still open to unplanned purchases in the first part when their trolley is still empty, for example, and they are refraining to do that when their trolley is starting to be with more goods into it. They're starting to think, okay, I bought enough, and so on and so forth. Or the fresh vegetables, it's always an destination category for the supermarkets, and they try to get this in the front of the store just to attract people, particularly in the stores that are somehow close to other shopping areas in the same thing. When it comes to fashion, it's something that I don't know where it's what is the neuroscience behind it, but in most of the stores, people will turn to the right when they get into a store or a fashion store, and therefore the first things that are somehow the novelties and so on, although they will be presented in the middle of the store for like an exhibition or something, you'll find them in the right part of the store, whatever you do. But then moving them across all the store, if you go to the Inditex stores or whatever in H&M and so on, you'll have to find which are the key categories or key type of items that would attract people to that areas, because it's a completely nothing is unplanned or nothing is unknown. So by now, by the professionals of this industry, they know why they place the shirts in the left corner or whatever. Yeah. And it's they know why to use the smell, a specific smell in the store and so on. Experiential is now the key words, and you can see it, and they involve this crossing between technology and offline shopping is coming to different other areas, with I don't know, you can try makeup without actually trying makeup with AI, or you can try clothes without trying them on because you are, uploading a photo of yours, of yours and your sizes, and then you will see how that particular type of jeans will fit you or not. So it can be, taken to a different level of experiencing, and this in between offline and online experience will probably start continue to develop to different others other
I sent a voice note to Hendrik yesterday saying I think e-commerce should be functional first and experiential never. I think we've gotten it wrong for years. And it's just interesting as a conversation point. It's something I'm going to talk about in the podcast in an hour or so. But I'd just love to kind of pose it out there. I don't think we'll get to a clear answer right now. But I think we've gotten it wrong. And as you say that, Vesna, it feels like in a physical world, I think we can place technology to help a shopper experience.
Yeah.
From an e-commerce perspective, I think we're trying too hard to get in the way of a shopper that just wants to do something really quick and easy and make it as functional as possible. So I've kind of come to this personal opinion that I feel we've overcomplicated, as well as language being overcomplicated, that experiential commerce is a fool's errand.
Yes, this one with
It's the only way I can describe it. Sorry, Hendrik.
Yeah, I think what is an errand or what is a pleasure. It's always it has to be very clearly defined. And when I take my sons for clothes shopping, is like I'm taking them to, I don't know, to very hard work. Like I would give them something to to a shovel to do that. Is like, and I want to spend money for them to look better. Yeah, so
I hear you.
if I go with their girlfriends, it's a completely different story. Yeah, we can stay half a day in a store and we will never finish. Yeah, particularly if I pay for them as well.
There's very different experiences.
Yeah, so very, very different experience.
Yeah, I've got to be rude and leave. Sorry, I have a standing call every week. But lovely to hear from you, Vesna. Thank you so much for sharing all that.
Very nice meeting you.
Take care. See you
Yeah, I
guys.
can connect you both in the community afterwards.
Please do.
Yes,
Thanks, Vinny.
That'd be
okay.
great.
Take care, man. Yeah,
Okay,
sure
thank you.
thing. Yeah, Elise, she makes a remark where she just says something here. She's based in Denmark with me, but
Mhm.
now today she's in Portugal, and her luggage is full of Brazilian products. Which I mean, a lot. There are a lot of Brazilians in Portugal.
But I
Therefore,
wonder why. Language.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So she says she can find the products in Denmark. She
Yeah.
also mentioned that she tried jeans there, like presume it's trousers, and it matches her perfectly as she used to find in Brazil. So maybe there's a different sizes, models, patterns in Europe.
Yes, sizes
Well,
for sure.
for
Sizes for
sure, right?
sure are
Uh-huh.
because they are tailored to the average sizes
Mm-hmm.
of the population around in that
Sure.
territory. Yeah, so it's for sure sizes and patterns are for sure tailored. I always feel better when I go to the States. You know me, Carlos. I am
Mm-hmm.
one meter 80. So I'm a tall woman.
You're
Yeah.
tall. Yes.
Yeah. So when I
Yeah.
go in the States, I perfectly fit in medium size.
Mm-hmm.
You can say a lot about myself, but not that I am a medium size. But in the
Mm-hmm.
States, I am a medium size, which for my ego feels absolutely spectacular. But if I go to Italy, which
Sorry.
are much, shorter, the women
Uh-huh.
in Italy are much shorter. There, I need a much larger size, which it's not comforting for my ego as well. But I'm the
Mm-hmm.
same person in this things.
Got
Yeah, for
it.
sure. In the Nordic part of Europe, particularly, the
Mm-hmm.
sizes are for sure for jeans are longer because people in those
Mm-hmm.
countries are taller to start with. In
Yeah, I wonder. I wonder in South Africa because South Africa is, I'd say, it's like Brazil. There were the Dutches, then the natives, right? And what's that like there, Hendrik?
So what Vesna said is exactly the case. So when I travel, I'm 6'5", so I'm quite a tall human, and finding clothing is a challenge, except when I go to America. Surprise, surprise. But I think for me, today's conversation highlighted something that I think is kind of a big deal. In that is that, Carlos, you made the point about, I don't know if it's a half an hour ago or earlier in the conversation, you said that it's not e-commerce, it's commerce. And Vesna today
Mhm.
made the argument, not to me, but I think Vesna made the argument for me that as if you work in e-commerce, we need to be making a much bigger play of getting to work with our counterparts that are working in retail. We're not fighting one another. We shouldn't be fighting. We shouldn't be battling one another. We should be working together because at the end of the day, we want the same thing. We want a conversion. We want the sale. We want success. But I think Vesna's research and Vesna's conversation today made me just realize again is that one, the Evolve community has some of the smartest people in the world that you can just have a conversation with on a Thursday and it blows your mind. But also, it's amazing to me that somebody that has so much experience like Vesna is willing to have a conversation with us when she doesn't particularly like e-commerce that much. And that for me is glorious, but also I just today's conversation just made me realize that if you're a consultant who works with brands, you should be making a bigger point of getting the brand retailer that relationship better, but also you should be working inside the business to ensure that the retail team and the e-com team works together. I know that's a cultural situation. I know it's complicated, but for me, this conversation today just kind of highlighted again in the sense
Mhm.
that
Mm-hmm.
every channel is important and we should basically check ourselves at the door in the sense that e-commerce is not special. It's a part of the process. It's a channel that the consumer use. I know I've just given a summary of, but I just wanted to get that out there because this is what we get wrong. To Vinny's point, we keep making it too complicated. What is Vesna's
Mm-hmm.
biggest thing today? Make sure you merchandise so consumer can find your goods in a store. It's a simple. Yet we have complicated with a bazillion lines of data and all kinds of stuff. So I'm really happy that I joined today. I'm also really happy that Vesna's research answered a bunch of questions that I had without obviously being like close to her in Europe. But I just come back to the simple point that these Thursday conversations, if you're an involved member, you should make a point like I do. I have a standing place on my calendar on a Thursday at 2 o'clock or 1 o'clock Eastern European time or European time. Join these conversations because you'll have your mind blown by really smart people like Vesna. So, Vesna, thanks for coming and sharing your story. You basically made my week for me a lot better. Here I
Okay,
sit.
thank you very much. It was very nice what you said about it. Thank you so
I appreciate it, Hendrik. Thanks very much. And by the way, since I'm Brazilian, 6'5", I always have to check. So you're 195. You're
Yeah,
tall, man. Like
yeah,
I'm
much. Yeah.
184 ish, and so you're very tall.
yes.
And Vesna, amazing as always. Thanks. So what I'd like to do is, because I mean, we're now an hour and five plus the 15 minutes networking that we had. I would love to promote your study,
Yes,
perhaps create a
please.
PDF or however we can. Do you think that is applicable or applicable to other regions? What you have there?
Yes,
Is
it
it,
is. The
yeah,
part of
it's a framework, right? In the end.
yeah, it's a framework. It's
Mhm.
as I said, it's based on three type of information. So some theories
Mhm.
coming from the gurus of the industry or the marketing schools, then best
Mhm.
practices for all the topics that we are covering in that, and then the bit of the fresh research that was done earlier this year that is definitely important for the Romanian market. And that one is not as applicable across the various geographies.
Mhm.
This can be replicated in other markets for sure. So if anybody would be interested to
Mhm.
build this for their markets, this can be for sure replicated. The excerpt that I was sharing with you, yes, you can share that. It was also
Mhm.
presented in some other conferences. The toolkit per se is for sale. Yeah, so we are still
Right.
actively
Of
selling it.
course.
It's not a white paper that we will
Mhm.
share. It's a document that has 200 pages to start with.
Mhm.
Yes,
Mhm.
because it has a lot of disinformation, but also it has an actionability part
Mhm.
where we are helping the ones that would buy it to activate the insights that they will read. Yes,
Mhm.
not only that you read and go back and do whatever you were doing before, but we are giving you some frameworks and templates to help you structure the new information on top of the information and insights that you have in your own industry and business to create a better promotional strategy or a better visibility tactic or a
Mhm.
better understanding of the consumer journey of your for your brand.
Amazing. Perfect. We'll make sure to promote that. Uh, I'll get in touch. So, Vesna, thanks
Mhm.
very much.
Thank you,
And
gentlemen. It was
yeah,
nice seeing you and talking to
likewise.
you. Very
Likewise.
interesting.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Bye bye.
Thank
Have a
you.
good day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.